I sat at the dinner table, watching Jessica scroll through her phone with a smirk that made my stomach twist. The candlelight flickered between us, casting shadows on her face, making her look like someone I did not know, someone I did not trust. The kids were at my mother's for the weekend, and I had planned this dinner to reconnect. I had been feeling the distance, the shift, the coldness in the way she barely looked at me anymore. But tonight she looked at me, and then she spoke, "In leaving you," just like that. No prelude, no warning, just a statement tossed onto the table like a dirty napkin. I felt my pulse slow, my breath freeze. I should have been shocked, devastated, something. But I was not, because I already knew. I just smiled, and her smirk, so confident, so cocky, twitched at the edges when she saw my reaction. For the first time in months, I saw confusion in her eyes. And then, before she could speak again, the restaurant door swung open. She turned her head, and that S when her face fell. Her fingers tightened around her wine glass, her whole body going rigid. I did not need to look to know who had just walked in. I had planned this moment too carefully. She had been so sloppy, so careless. She thought she was untouchable, that I was blind, that I was weak. She had no idea. "Something wrong, Jess?" I asked, tilting my head, enjoying the way her face strained of color. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. She swallowed, blinked fast, and forced a laugh. But it was brittle hollow. "What the hell is this, Mark?" I leaned back in my chair, stretching out, feeling lighter than I had in months. "This," I said, nodding toward the man who had just entered, "is where you realize that you're not as smart as you think you are." Her lover, because yes, I knew exactly who he was, stood frozen near the entrance, his eyes darting between us like he had just walked into an ambush, which, in a way, he had. His name was Brandon, a younger guy, mid-30s, gym body, fake confidence. I had watched them together for weeks. The way she leaned into him when she thought no one was looking. The way his hand would brush her lower back as they left the office. The way she lied to my face and told me I was crazy. I was not crazy. Jessica's breath hitched as she looked from me to Brandon, then back again. "I do not know what you think you know, but this is ridiculous." Her voice cracked on the last word, and that was the moment I saw it. Fear. I had her. "Ridiculous?" I echoed, reaching into my pocket. I pulled out my phone and placed it on the table between us. "You sure about that?" She stared at the phone like it was a ticking bomb. I tapped the screen and the audio played. Her voice, her mounts, her betrayal. Every single filthy word she whispered to him when she thought I was asleep at home. When she thought I was clueless. When she thought she could have everything. Her perfect life, her perfect affair, her perfect lie without consequence. The restaurant was quiet except for the soft clink of glasses. The murmur of distant conversations. But at our table, there was nothing but the sound of her own sins playing back at her. Jessica's face twisted in horror. How did you? You should have deleted your messages, Jess," I said smoothly, watching her unravel, "or maybe not have done it at all." Brandon took a slow step back toward the door. Like he was hoping he could slip away unnoticed. "Do not move," I said, my voice dropping an octave. He froze. Jessica's breathing was uneven now. Her hands trembling as she reached for my phone. But I pulled it back before she could snatch it. "Mark, please," she said. And for the first time, her voice had something real in it. Not arrogance, not mockery, panic, "please," I repeated, laughing under my breath. "That's funny." "Really? Because when I asked you last week where you were, when I begged you to just be honest with me, you looked me in the eye and told me I was pathetic. That I was paranoid. That I was losing my mind." I tilted my head. "Guess I found it again." She swallowed hard, glancing around, realizing that people were starting to notice. The couple at the table next to us was pretending not to listen. But I saw the way their ears were angled toward us. A waiter hesitated nearby, unsure whether to intervene. Brandon finally spoke. "Look, man," he said, lifting his hands in a fake gesture of peace. "I did not know. Shut up, I said. He did. Jessica was shaking now, blinking rapidly, scrambling for control. We can talk about this later. Just you and me. Please. I shook my head. No, Jess. We're talking now. I slid a thick envelope across the table. She looked at it like it might bite her. Go ahead, I said. Open it. She hesitated. Then with jerky movements, she picked it up and pulled out the papers inside. As her eyes scanned the words, her lips parted and a tiny strangled sound escaped her throat. Divorce papers, I said casually, swirling the last sip of my whiskey in my glass. Filed this morning, you've been served. And for the first time since she sat down, Jessica had nothing to say. Jessica stared at the papers in her hands like they were written in a language she did not understand. Her lips moved slightly as if forming words she could not say. Her nails, painted a shade of red I used to love, dug into the edges of the thick envelope. She looked up at me, eyes wild. You serious? I leaned back in my chair, exhaling slowly, letting the moment sink in for her. Dead serious. She let out a short, humorless laugh and shook her head. No. No, this is just you being dramatic. You would not do this. She lifted the papers, almost shoving them toward me. Mark, we have kids, a life. Her voice was rising now, desperate, but I caught the edge of something else underneath it. Not regret, not remorse. Rage, I smiled. You threw that away, Jess. Across the restaurant, Brandon had gone pale. He kept shifting his weight from foot to foot, glancing at the door like he was calculating how fast he could get out of here. I ignored him. He was nothing. A side character in the tragedy Jessica had written for herself. Jessica's hands were shaking now, the papers rustling as she tightened her grip. She swallowed hard, her jaw clenched so tight, I thought she might crack a tooth. Then she dropped the papers onto the table with a sharp slap. You really think you're going to walk away from me? She said, her voice lowering to a dangerous whisper. Just like that. I raised an eyebrow. That's the plan. She let out a sharp, bitter laugh and shook her head again, but this time there was something else in her expression. A calculation. A shift. Like she was already forming her next move. You do not get to decide this, Mark. I do. I took another sip of my drink unfazed. That's cute. You really think you still have control here, do not you? Her eyes flashed. I have more control than you think. And there it was. The mask was slipping. She was not scared. She was angry that I had beaten her to the punch. That I had taken the power away from her before she had the chance to throw me away like garbage. You thought you could just, what? Catch me in a gotcha moment? Embarrass me. She gestured toward the restaurant, her voice rising again. Congratulations, Mark, you made a scene. And now what? You think I'm just going to roll over and let you leave me? I tilted my head. That's exactly what you were going to do. Her eyes narrowed. You think I would not fight you in court? You think I would not take everything? The house. The kids. Your money. She sneered. You do not have the stomach for this kind of war. I chuckled, shaking my head. Jessica, you have no idea what I'm capable of. She scoffed. Oh, please. You're not that guy. You've never been that guy. I smiled. I was not. Until you made me that guy. Jessica opened her mouth to snap back, but then she froze. Because that's when she saw the second envelope I pulled from my pocket and slid across the table. Her breath caught in her throat. I watched her hesitate before slowly reaching for it. Her fingers trembled as she opened it and pulled out the neatly stacked pages inside. She read the first line and then the second, and her face collapsed. Her whole body seemed to shrink inward, shoulders curling, her hands gripping the papers so tight they crumpled. She sucked in a sharp breath, blinking rapidly as her lips parted, but no words came out. When she finally looked at me, she was not angry anymore. She was terrified. I let the silence stretch between us, savoring it, watching her try to find a way out. Mark, she whispered. I leaned forward, resting my elbows on the table and lowered my voice so only she could hear. Did you really think I would not find out about the money? She flinched. I smirked. Oh yeah, Jess, I know everything. And just like that, I watched the last bit of fight drain out of her. Jessica's fingers clenched around the second set of papers, her knuckles turning white. She swallowed hard, her throat bobbing as she tried to compose herself. But there was no way out of this. Not this time. I leaned back, watching the war behind her eyes. She was cycling through every possible excuse, every manipulation she could pull, trying to find a foothold. But there was not one. I had made sure of that. She licked her lips, her voice unsteady. I do not know what you think this is. But cut the crap, Jessica. My voice was calm, steady, dangerous. You drained our accounts. Over the last 6 months, I watched nearly $40,000 vanish. And guess what? I tracked every cent. Jessica flinched as if I had slapped her. I did not. I raised a hand. Do not lie. Her mouth opened, then closed. She was scrambling, searching for a way to spin this. But there was no angle, no escape. She was cornered. Her eyes flickered toward Brandon, whose face was now a mask of guilt and panic. I almost laughed. The idiot had no idea that I had already done my homework on him, too. Oh, do not look at him, I said, smirking. He is not getting you out of this. In fact, I turned my gaze toward Brandon, enjoying the way he stiffened. You want to tell her? Or should I? Brandon's Adam's apple bobbed. Jessica's eyes darted between us, her fingers twitching like she wanted to reach for something. Maybe my phone. Maybe my throat. Tell me what? She demanded, voice sharp. Brandon looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. But I did not give him a choice. I had you followed, Jess. I leaned in, lowering my voice just enough for the weight of my words to sink in. Not just for a day. Not just for a week. Months. And here's the best part. I let the silence stretch for effect. Brandon? He's not your only affair. Jessica froze. Her lips parted. And for the first time tonight, she looked truly afraid. Brandon's head snapped toward her, his face twisting in confusion. Wait, what? I smirked. Oh, she did not tell you. I turned back to Jessica, my tone dripping with mock sympathy. He thought he was the only one. How adorable. Brandon took a step back from the table, shaking his head. Jess, what the hell is he talking about? Jessica whipped her head toward him, her expression desperate now. Do not listen to him. He is just trying to mess with us. Brandon's face darkened. Is he? Her silence was all the answer he needed. I could practically see the betrayal settle into his bones. He looked at her like she was poison, like he finally saw her for what she was. Oh, this is priceless, I said, chuckling. You really thought you were going to come in here, blindside me with a breakup and skip off into the sunset with this clown? I gestured to Brandon. Meanwhile, you had another guy on the side. Jessica's hands slammed onto the table. Shut up, Mark. The restaurant went silent. Every head turned. Every conversation stopped. She realized her mistake instantly. She never lost control. But tonight she was unraveling in real time. Slowly, I took another sip of my whiskey, setting the glass down with a soft clink. I let the silence drag before I spoke again. My voice low, lethal. I'm not the one who needs to shut up, Jessica. She was seething, but she knew that anything she said now would only dig her grave deeper. I turned to Brandon, who still looked shell-shocked. Do yourself a favor, man. Walk away. She'll drain your wallet, wreck your life and move on before you even realize what happened. I leaned back. Ask me how I know. Brandon's face twisted with disgust. And then, without another word, he turned on his heel and walked out. Jessica watched him go, her expression crumbling. Now it was just the two of us. I reached into my pocket and pulled out one last thing. A USB drive. I placed it gently on the table between us, tapping it twice. You'll want to check what's on here before you try anything stupid, I murmured. Jessica did not move, did not breathe. Security footage from the hotel you've been visiting. Every time, every person. I leaned in just slightly. And some of them are people you really do not want exposed. Her entire body went still. I smiled. Now you're going to listen to me. Jessica did not blink. She did not move. She just sat there staring at the tiny USB drive between us like it was a live grenade. Because in a way, it was. I leaned back, stretching my arms as if I had all the time in the world. While she sat frozen, her mind undoubtedly racing, calculating. You have nothing, she finally hissed, but there was no confidence in her voice. Just a desperate, shaking denial. I smirked. Really? Then take it. I nudged the USB toward her. Go ahead. Plug it in. See for yourself. Her fingers twitched, but she did not move because she knew. She knew. I had caught everything. The hotel visits, the texts, the late-night meetups when she thought I was asleep. And the best part? She was not just cheating with random nobodies. No, that would have been too easy. Too basic for someone as arrogant as Jessica. She had gone for people she had no business getting involved with. People with careers, reputations, marriages of their own. And now I had all of it. She swallowed hard. What? What do you want? I smiled. There it was. The shift. The realization that she was not in control anymore. That she had lost. I already told you, I said casually, swirling the last bit of whiskey in my glass. You re-signing the divorce papers. No fight. No drawn-out legal battle. No ridiculous demands. I leaned forward. You going to walk away quietly, Jess? And if you do not, I tapped the USB once. Jessica's lips parted slightly, her breathing uneven. She was unraveling and I wanted her to feel every second of it. You would not, she whispered. I grinned. Oh, but I would. And you know I would. Her jaw clenched, nostrils flaring. I could see the war happening inside her head. If she fought me on this, the footage would leak. If she agreed, she'd lose everything, but she might still salvage some dignity. For the first time since this all started, Jessica was out of moves. I gave her a moment to process it. Let her sit with the weight of it. Then I spoke again, my voice smooth and deadly. Sign the papers, Jess? Or watch your world burn. She sat there rigid as locked on mine. And then with a shaky breath, she reached for the divorce papers. Jessica's fingers trembled as she picked up the divorce papers. Her eyes scanned the words, but I could tell she was not reading them. She was stalling, searching for a way out, trying to buy time to think. I let her sit in her own silence. Let her marinate in the reality she had so carelessly built for herself. Then she did something that almost made me laugh. She straightened her back, forced a slow breath and lifted her chin. Her eyes met mine, and just like that, the panic was gone. Instead, she wore a mask, the same cold, manipulative expression I had seen 1,000 times before. The Jessica who always found a way to twist the situation back in her favor. She set the papers down neatly, smoothing them with her hands, then looked at me with an infuriatingly calm expression. You think you've won, she said, her voice soft. I smirked. I do not think, Jessica. I know. She exhaled slowly, tilting her head as if she were analyzing me, trying to poke holes in my confidence. Then she smirked. Smirked. And just like that, I knew she was not going to make this easy. She tapped the stack of papers. You really expect me to sign this? Yeah, I said. I do. She let out a small laugh. Mark, I do not know what kind of fantasy you're reliving in, but let me bring you back to reality. She leaned in, her voice dropping into something sickeningly sweet. Dangerous. I know you. You're not ruthless. You do not have it in you to do something like this. I raised an eyebrow. That's so. She nodded. You're mad, sure. You're hurt. But you're still the same pathetic, predictable man I married. Ah, there it was. I could have ended her right then and there. I could have pulled out my phone, sent a single message, and let the evidence spread like wildfire. But no, that would have been too easy. Instead, I just smiled. A slow, calculated grin that made her smirk falter just a little. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my trump card. My second phone, the one she had no idea about. Jessica's smirk vanished. I tapped the screen a few times, then turned it around so she could see. A video started playing. Not from a hotel camera. Not from a text message. From our own home. Her eyes widened. It was her in our bedroom, on the phone with her lawyer. She had planned this. The divorce. The financial ruin. The custody battle. She had been preparing to destroy me long before I had ever suspected anything. The color drained from her face. How? I locked my phone and slid it back into my pocket. You got sloppy, Jess. I chuckled. You thought you were the only one playing a game. Turns out you were playing against someone who knew the rules better than you did. She gritted her teeth, her entire body trembling. But this time it was not with anger. It was fear. I leaned forward, resting my elbows on the table. So let us go over this one more time. My voice was calm, controlled. Final. You going to sign these papers? Her breathing was ragged now. And if I do not? I smiled. Then I make sure you lose everything first. Jessica sat there, stiff and silent, her eyes darting to the divorce papers as if they might burst into flames. Her fingers twitched slightly, her breath uneven. But I could see it, the gears turning in her mind, trying to calculate a way out. She was not used to losing. And she hated it. She exhaled sharply and leaned back, crossing her arms. Fine, she said, her voice eerily controlled. You want me to sign? I'll sign. I tilted my head. Too easy. Jessica was not the type to give up. She picked up the pen, twirling it between her fingers. But before I do, let me ask you something. I gestured for her to continue, waiting for whatever pathetic excuse she was about to throw my way. She smirked, but it did not reach her eyes. Are you sure you want to do this? I blinked. Did you seriously just ask me that? Her smirk widened. Because once I signed this, Mark, there's no going back. I laughed under my breath. That's the point. She nodded slowly, tapping the pen against the table. All right. But I hope you understand something. Her voice softened, turning into that tone, the one she used when she wanted to manipulate people to make them doubt themselves. I was not falling for it. You think you're winning right now? She murmured, staring at the papers. You think this is your victory, but you have no idea what's coming next. I raised an eyebrow, enlighten me. She exhaled, shaking her head. You're making a mistake, Mark? A huge mistake. I could hear the venom behind her words. I do not make mistakes, I said, my voice calm and steady. Jessica leaned forward now, her smirk gone. Her expression was something else, something darker. You think I'm just going to walk away? Sign these papers and let you go? Just like that? She scoffed. You really think I do not have anything left to fight with? I stayed silent. I wanted to see where she was going with this. Then she said it? You're not getting the kids. My jaw tightened. She saw it. And she smiled. There it was. Her real play. She did not care about the money. Did not care about the house. She cared about control. And right now, the only thing she had left to use against me was our children. I stared at her, my blood boiling. Jessica leaned in further, lowering her voice. You think this is over? It's not. I'll drag this through the courts. I'll make sure the judge sees you as some unstable paranoid man who, what was it you said? Oh, right. Had me followed. She chuckled darkly. That does not look great for you. Does it? I did not react. I refused to. But inside, my hands were itching to slam the table to wipe that disgusting smirk off her face. She knew exactly what she was doing. I'll make sure you get visitation, of course. She continued, tapping the pen against the papers. A weekend here and there, maybe some holidays if I'm feeling generous. I clenched my fists under the table. Jessica leaned back, looking smug. You can have your divorce, Mark, but you're not taking my children from me. I took a slow, deep breath. Let the rage simmer. Let the silence stretch until she started to second-guess herself. Then I smiled. And she flinched. You're forgetting something, I said, my voice eerily calm. Jessica frowned, clearly thrown off by my reaction. What? I reached into my pocket again, pulling out one last document. I slid it across the table. Jessica hesitated before picking it up. She scanned the first few lines, her smirk vanishing. Her hands tightened around the paper as she read further. Then she looked up at me, her face pure shock. You how I leaned in, my eyes locked on hers. Unwavering. I've been ahead of you this whole time, Jess. I smiled. Did you really think I would not prepare for this exact moment? She shook her head slightly, completely thrown off. No. No, this is not possible. I chuckled. Oh, it is. I tapped the document. That right there? Proof that you're an unfit mother. Witness statements. Financial records showing how much money you funneled away for your little affairs instead of taking care of your own kids. Screenshots of messages where you bragged about needing a break from them. Jessica's breathing was shallow now. You would not. I stared her down. Watch me. She swallowed hard, gripping the document so tightly that the edges crumpled. I'm filing for full custody, Jessica. My voice was low, lethal. And when the judge sees everything I have on you, you would not be getting a single weekend. Jessica's face crumpled. And for the first time all night, she looked truly completely powerless. Jessica's hands trembled as she clutched the custody documents, her breath uneven, her entire body suddenly smaller than before. Her eyes darted over the pages, trying to find a flaw, a loophole, something to argue against. But there was nothing. Because I had been meticulous. She swallowed hard, blinking rapidly as if she might wake up from this nightmare. And for the first time since this whole thing started, she was not smirking anymore. I leaned back in my chair, letting her absorb the full weight of what was happening. Something wrong, Jess? She did not answer. For the first time, she was speechless. She stared at me, her face shifting from shock to denial, then to something closer to fear. Not for the kids. For herself. I let the silence stretch between us, waiting, letting her suffer in it. And then, finally, she spoke. You're bluffing. I laughed under my breath, shaking my head. Am I? She straightened her back, trying to regain control. Trying to summon that same smug arrogance she had walked in with. But it was slipping. Fast. You see, not take my kids from me, she said, her voice more desperate now. No judge would. I think they will. I interrupted, my voice calm. Because guess what, Jess? Judges do not like liars. They do not like manipulative cheaters. And they especially do not like mothers who put their own desires above their children. Her jaw clenched. I'm a good mother. I scoffed. A good mother does not use her kids as leverage. A good mother does not sneak around behind her husband's back and risk blowing up their entire world. Jessica's eyes darkened. You're not taking them from me, she whispered. Oh, I'm not. I pulled out my phone, tapped the screen a few times, and then held it up. Jessica's breath hitched. Because she knew exactly what I was showing her. A voice recording. Her voice. I just need space from them, you know? They're always needing something, always pulling at me. I swear, sometimes I just want to run away. I let it play for a few more seconds before I stopped it. Jessica's face was pure horror. I leaned in, lowering my voice. How do you think that South gonna sound in court, Jess? She shook her head rapidly. You twisted that. That's out of context. I smirked. Is it? I tapped my phone. Because I have more. A lot more. Her whole body locked up. I had been watching her for months. Documenting everything. Every lie. Every mistake. Every selfish little confession she made to her friends. Thinking I'd never find out. And now she was trapped. She knew it. And I knew it. Jessica's hands tightened into fists on the table. Her breathing ragged. Then suddenly she laughed. It was short, humorless, bitter. Wow. She muttered, shaking her head. I underestimated you. I smirked. Yeah, you did. She lifted her gaze to mine. And for a moment, I saw something new in her eyes. Hey, raw, blistering, venomous hate. You always wanted to be the nice guy, she sneered. The good, dependable husband. You could not even stand up for yourself most of the time. And now, suddenly, what? You read this cutthroat, ruthless mastermind. I just smiled. I learned fast. She let out another short, bitter laugh, shaking her head. You really think you read different from me now, do not you? I did not answer. Because I did not need to. Jessica stared at me for a long moment. Then, without another word, she reached for the pen. She hesitated only for a second. Then, slowly, she signed the divorce papers. The ink barely dried before I took them and tucked them neatly into my bag. Final. Done. No way out. Jessica sat still, her expression unreadable. But I was not finished. I pulled one more document from my bag and slid it across the table. Her eyes flickered down. When she saw what it was, her breath caught. A custody agreement. One that gave me full custody. Jessica's head snapped up. Mark, I lifted a hand, cutting her off. You have a choice, Jess. Her eyes darted across my face, searching for an opening. A weakness. A way to fight. There was none. You fight me on this, I said, voice even, and I bury you. I take the kids, I take the house, and I make sure the whole world knows exactly what kind of mother you are. I tapped my phone. Or you walk away quietly. Jessica's fingers curled into the table. Her nails digging into the wood. She knew she had already lost. She just had not expected to lose this badly. Jessica sat there motionless. The custody agreement lying between us like a loaded gun. She was not breathing properly anymore. Her chest rising and falling in shallow, panicked movements. The woman who had walked into this restaurant with her head high, so damn sure she was in control, was gone. I let her sit in the moment. Let her feel it. Let her suffocate in the mess she had created. She swallowed hard, shaking her head slightly. No, she whispered. I tilted my head. No, she let out a breathless, humorless laugh. You really think I'm going to sign away my kids? I did not answer. Instead, I reached into my pocket, pulled out my final card, and placed it gently on the table. Jessica's eyes dropped to it. Her phone. Her personal phone. The one she had left charging at home. The one I had taken this morning before she even realized it was gone. Jessica's body locked up. How did you? I tapped the screen. The display lit up. I turned it toward her slowly, deliberately letting her see what I had already opened. Her text messages. Her emails. Her hidden conversations. Jessica's eyes widened, and for the first time since this started, I saw true, raw terror settle into her face. I smirked. She knew exactly what was in there. I tapped one thread at random, reading aloud. I see not do this anymore. I should have left him a long time ago. I just need to figure out how to make sure I come out on top. Jessica's breath hitched. I swiped to another. I do not even feel guilty anymore. He is so clueless. I could walk all over him, and he'd still be begging me to stay. Silence. Deep, crushing silence. Jessica's hands gripped the edge of the table, her knuckles white. Mark. I lifted a hand, cutting her off. No, my voice was calm. Even you do not speak now. You listen. She flinched. I leaned forward slightly. My gaze locked onto hers. You had your fun. You played your little games. You lied. You manipulated. And you really thought that you'd get away with it. Jessica's lips parted, but nothing came out. I tapped her phone again, scrolling. But here's the problem, Jess. You were not just cheating on me. You were planning. You were trying to take everything. The house, the kids, my finances. You were already working with a lawyer months ago. Were not you? Her eyes darted away. Yeah. I murmured, nodding. I know. I let the weight of it hang in the air. Let her feel it. Let her understand truly and deeply that she had lost everything. Then I slid the custody agreement closer to her. Sign it. Jessica shook her head. Fast panicked. No. No, I raised my voice just slightly. Sign it. She blinked rapidly, her breathing erratic. I see not. I tilted my head. You can. And you will. She exhaled shakily, gripping the pen so tightly, I thought it might snap. Her hands trembled as she hovered over the line. Then just when I thought she would finally do it, she dropped the pen. Jessica clenched her jaw, staring at me with something between hatred and desperation. You want to destroy me, do not you? I let out a quiet breath. No, Jess. You did that to yourself. She exhaled sharply through her nose, looking at the paper like it was a death sentence. And in a way, it was the end of her control, the end of her story. Then finally she signed. The pen scratched across the paper one stroke at a time. When she finished, she pushed it toward me without a word. I took it, folded it neatly, and slid it into my bag. Done. Jessica sat there, her hands gripping her lap, her breathing shallow. She looked like a woman who had just watched her world burn to the ground. I stood up, adjusting my jacket, then reached into my pocket one last time. I placed her phone back on the table in front of her. Jessica stared at it like it was a bomb. Then I leaned down just enough for her to hear my final words. Goodbye, Jess. And with that I walked away. I stepped out of the restaurant, inhaling the crisp night air as the door swung shut behind me. For the first time in months, maybe even years, I felt free. Jessica was still inside, sitting alone at that table exactly where I had left her. She would not come after me. She would not make a scene. She had nothing left to fight with. I walked toward my car, my mind replaying the last 2 hours like a movie. Every move, every word, every calculated step I had taken to bring her down. And now it was done. I had won. But as I reached for the car door, a voice rang out behind me. Mark, I exhaled slowly before turning. Jessica stood a few feet away, arms crossed tightly over her chest, her face illuminated by the soft glow of the restaurant lights. She looked different now. Smaller, like the weight of what had just happened was finally settling on her shoulders. But I knew Jessica. And I knew that look. She was not done yet. I did not speak. Just raised an eyebrow, waiting. Jessica took a step closer, tilting her head slightly. So that's it. I let out a dry chuckle. That's it. She exhaled sharply, shaking her head. You think you can just walk away from me? I smiled. I already have. Her jaw tightened. You have no idea what you're doing, Mark. I laughed. Actually laughed. Jessica, I knew exactly what I was doing the moment I started digging into your lies. She took another step forward, lowering her voice. You want to hurt me? Fine. You did. But you do not get to rewrite history like you were some innocent little victim. I just stared at her. She scoffed. Oh, do not look at me like that. We both know this marriage was not perfect. You were not perfect. But instead of trying to fix it, you went behind my back, had me followed like some paranoid. You cheated, Jessica. My voice was cold, cutting through her like a blade. Not once. Not twice. You built a whole second life behind my back. So do not stand there and act like we were just some unhappy couple who drifted apart. She opened her mouth, then closed it. Silence. Jessica hated silence. She shook her head again, laughing under her breath. You do not even realize it, do you? I frowned slightly. Realize what? She took another step forward and suddenly she was smiling. Not the fake smirk from earlier. Not the arrogant, manipulative smile she used when she thought she was in control. No. This was something else. This was knowing. You think this is over? She whispered. You think you've won? I did not answer. She took one more step, now just a few feet from me, her voice soft but poisonous. But Mark, you're still in my game. A slow, uncomfortable feeling settled in my gut. Jessica saw it, and she grinned. Do you really think I did not plan for this? She whispered. Do you really think I did not prepare? I stayed silent. Jessica tilted her head, her voice mocking now. You think you're ruthless? You think you've backed me into a corner? Oh, baby. She leaned in slightly. You have not even seen Ruthless yet. My pulse ticked up just slightly. Jessica stepped back, smoothing her dress, regaining her composure. You should enjoy this little victory while you can, she said casually. Because when I'm done with you, she smiled. You would not have anything left to celebrate. Then without another word, she walked away. And for the first time all night, I felt something I did not like. Doubt that I watched Jessica walk away, her heels clicking against the pavement, her posture stiff but controlled. She was furious. She was humiliated. But she was not broken. And that unsettled me. She had lost everything tonight. The marriage, the money, the kids. And yet she still had the nerve to smile at me like she was 2 steps ahead. Like she still had a move to play. I tightened my grip on my car keys, inhaling deeply, forcing down the doubt creeping into my gut. No, she was bluffing. She had nothing left. Right. I exhaled slowly, shaking my head and got into my car. My reflection in the rearview mirror stared back at me. Someone I barely recognized anymore. Jessica was wrong. I was not the same weak, predictable man she had walked all over for years. I had outplayed her. Had not I? I turned the ignition, but I did not drive off right away. Instead, I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my messages, stopping at one name. My lawyer. I tapped out a quick text. Make sure the paperwork is airtight. I do not trust her to go quietly. Sent. I tossed the phone onto the passenger seat. My mind racing. She had nothing. But then, why was not she panicking? 2 weeks later, I should have known Jessica was not done with me. I was standing in my kitchen, coffee in hand, flipping through some documents when my phone rang. Blocked number. I frowned, hesitating for half a second before answering. Mark speaking. Silence. Then a familiar voice. Morning, Mark. Jessica. I closed my eyes, pinching the bridge of my nose. What do you want, Jessica? A soft chuckle on the other end. Now is that any way to greet your ex-wife? I exhaled sharply. I do not have time for your games. You might want to make time. Something in her voice made my stomach tighten. She was too calm. Did you really think I'd just disappear? She continued. Sign some papers and play the obedient little ex. I clenched my jaw. You do not have a choice, Jess. You already lost. Another laugh. Oh, Mark, she whispered. Sweet, naive Mark. You still do not get it, do you? I did not respond. Jessica sighed dramatically. You think because you won in court, you've won in life? That you can just move on, start fresh? My grip tightened on my coffee cup. Get to the point, Jess. Pause. Then in the softest, most satisfied voice, she said, I made a few adjustments before signing the papers. My blood ran cold. What the hell does that mean? I snapped, but she did not answer. Instead, I heard the faint rustling of paper on her end of the line, like she was holding a document. Then the sound of a page turning. I swallowed hard. Jessica, what did you do? Silence. Then finally her voice came through. Smug, victorious, and cruel. Check your email, Mark. Click. The call ended. My heart was pounding as I grabbed my phone. Opening my inbox. One new email. No subject. I clicked on it. And as soon as I saw the first few lines, my stomach dropped. She was not bluffing. She had played me. And now, she was about to ruin me.